Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Mark Goes Rogue podcast, the podcast that takes you outside the city limits of Burlingame. My guest today is Don Delia, a highly skilled building contractor and the owner of Eliaconstruction, a premier construction company based in San Mateo, California. Don specializes in high-quality home renovations, custom builds, and remodeling projects. He is also well known in the community for being a hard worker with a great sense of humor and a generous heart. He is proud to support many nonprofit organizations, including one that we will be discussing today, Sol Mateo, and the 43rd Signature Kitchen Tour. Don is married to Kathleen and a proud father to Will and stepfather to Erica, Bree, Julia, and Michael. And now my conversation with Don Delia. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Absolutely, and I appreciate it, man. You're a very busy guy, and giving up an hour or so really is terrific. So thank you.
Yeah, very much appreciated.
Okay, so I mentioned in the intro that you had a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out right now, okay? Fun fact number one, you graduated from San Diego State and you were an English major, is that correct?
Yep.
Does that mean that because you became an Aztec, you didn't have the grades to get into Long Beach State?
Yeah, well, they accepted me, so I went.
Good for you. Yeah. And an English major.
Yeah. The intention was to, it was an undergraduate degree to pre-law.
Right.
I intended to go to law school.
Right. Okay, so then how did you end up in the construction business?
Kind of a circuitous path in some ways, but after graduating, I started studying for the LSAT, and my father had a business locally here in Burlingame and had run a manufacturer representative company for many years after selling a company he built to another publicly traded company. But nonetheless, my dad said, hey, well, while you're studying for the LSAT and while you're in this middle ground, why don't you come work for me? 14 years later, I was still working with my dad.
Right.
And I had become, started as a small fractional owner of the company and then became, a majority owner of the company.
Right.
As my dad was deciding to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that industry and that business was very hard for me. I was very successful at it. It was 100% commission-based, so I learned marketing, I learned the skill set of sales, and communicating with people.
And 100% commission, you learned hustle. I mean, hustle by working hard and quick, you know what I mean? Yeah, you got to work hard.
Yeah, and my parents ingrained a real strong work ethic.
Yeah.
From childhood. It was chores and then play.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
After 14 years with my father, I built businesses around the country from zero market share in California and Nevada to multi-million-dollar territories. And they would say, thank you, Don and Bob. You've done a great job. We've just hired a direct employee to replace you.
Oh.
So our representative contracts, got eliminated as we succeeded in a way. And that was really hard for me because I was building other people's businesses and not really building security and a future for myself. It was, it was a compressed success story. So honestly, one day I told my dad I'm done.
Okay, and how'd he take that?
He was surprised.
Uh-huh. Did that lead to you getting into the actual construction, and excuse my expression, slinging a hammer, though, or what?
Yeah, well, so, I'll say an underlayer to that the whole journey with my dad is prior to graduating college and otherwise, every weekend, spring break, summer, long holiday weekend in the construction business, I would come home and I would work for a local building contractor whose name was Jerry Hawks. And he had 5 boys and 2 girls. He had a big family. He's a known builder in the area for many years in the past.
Right.
And I apprenticed and worked for Jerry, every free moment that I was not in school. My parents weren't buying me a ticket to Tahoe.
But obviously you enjoyed it then. right?
I enjoyed. I do not relax.
Yeah.
I relax by doing. So I would work 8-10 hour day, slinging a hammer, as you say.
Yeah.
And then he was an electrical contractor by trade, also, as well as a general contractor. So after my regular shift, I would go to one of the homes that we were building on spec or building otherwise, and I'd pull wire and I'd wire houses.
So you learned a little bit about the electrical trade as well doing all this, or what?
Yeah.
Enough to know what's going on, I guess.
And you know, because I was a young kid and I'll say a laborer at that time, you know, I worked with the plumbers, but I did everything from foundation to finish trim, you know, and we'd do, you know, gorgeous homes.
Right.
You know, all throughout, primarily Hillsborough, some San Mateo Park.
Yeah.
So I cut my teeth learning the trade, doing that while going through college and so on. And when I left my father, you know, he was like, "You're going to do what?" And the first couple of years were really hard.
So, but you worked for this fella for a while then you broke off. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I worked for my father as a
Right.
primary source of income
Right.
after graduating college.
I got that. And then you worked for this, what was his name again, the contract?
Jerry Hawks.
Jerry Hawks throughout school, it sounds
Yeah,
like. Right.
yeah.
Then you get out of school, you're finished, you're working with your dad for 14 years.
Yeah.
So when did you decide, like, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to become a general contractor on my own. I'm going to go open my own business, et cetera. How did all that happen?
So layering into that throughout my childhood and all growing up, my parents had rental property and other property, and all of my chores were maintaining and fixing homes that either my parents or my grandparents owned.
What a way to learn.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I got the, experience by doing.
Yeah, by the hands-on.
Yeah, so, you know, I had known how to fix essentially anything relative to a home when I was young.
So when you went on your own, right? I mean, did you like work by yourself for a while as like a handyman type of guy? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was essentially a property maintenance company.
Yeah.
And a do-all, you know?
Right.
And I didn't have, you know, the luxuries I have today and nor the experience, but nor the clients and the amazing customers.
Yeah.
But, you know, now the projects we do are, you know, exponentially more complicated.
But they're big.
They're big and or they're highly detailed.
Yeah, very detailed. If you look at the website, oh my goodness, it's great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on your own for a while. You're self-employed, right? Mm-hmm. And you're kind of a super duper handyman. But so how did it evolved into larger jobs? Somebody might have said to you, "Hey, can you remodel my bathroom?" Okay, I can do that, right? Then it goes to kitchen. Mm-hmm. How about doing the whole house, right?
Yeah, ground up.
And then you had to start hiring some guys.
Oh, absolutely. But you know, along the way, I was very fortunate to meet and be mentored and interact with a bunch of really, really great, experienced, I'll say old school trade guys.
Yeah.
And as they retired out, as they got to know me, they would, you know, help me and mentor me and, you know, share their some of their tradespeople with me.
Right.
I have tile setters that have worked with me since I started.
Jeez.
You know, the dad and now the son and now, you know, some of the other kids.
Yeah.
And same thing with painters and electricians and my, you know, framing or foundation. And any trade that I work with has been, you know, a decade or more with me. Yeah. You know.
How many years have you been on your own?
I think I don't remember what year I incorporated off top of my head right now, but it's at least 30, maybe
30 years.
Yeah, at least.
And does when you have employees, it's sometimes you have more than other times? So it's kind of hot and cold, right?
Absolutely.
If you're busy, you have more, less, right?
Absolutely.
How many you got right now?
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Yeah.
And how many projects are you working on right now?
Probably 5, 6.
What kind of projects are they?
They run the gamut in scale and scope.
Okay.
People ask me, well, how many projects are you doing, and can you manage and handle ours?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm doing, a bunch of small projects, I can handle, the larger 1 to 2 year projects.
Right.
If I have a series of larger projects in the hopper, then the smaller ones are, not necessarily more difficult to manage, but at any certain time I could be running, 10 to 12 projects.
Right.
But I'm not a big business. I've run the business with I'll say a very high level of efficiency, a very strong sense of organization. I believe in, a lot of contractors live hand to mouth.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're relying on the next job to feed their family and to do this. I have always been, I don't know about ultra conservative, but I've always been very conservative, very well capitalized, a nice nest egg to ride out the soft spots in the valleys and really shine when the market's booming.
Right.
And I have a pretty good sized family, so a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, 5 children, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man. Boy. Okay, so when you're doing these projects, you said you have about 5 or 6 going right now, huh? Mm-hmm. And your guys are spread out, I guess. So you must bring in subs, right?
Absolutely.
And these subs that you're bringing in, are you pretty familiar with these guys then?
Yeah.
Pretty much the same plumbers, electricians, or the companies that you're dealing with and stuff like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As I mentioned a few moments ago, my tile setters have worked with me for 30 plus years.
Yeah, that's great.
My stone guys, every facet of the trade, I have someone that I work with for a long time,
right,
who's specialized in their area of expertise, and I have a rapport with these guys like family.
That's great. What about working with an architect? Say you're going to do a rebuild or I guess a remodel too, right? You would work with an architect, huh?
It depends.
It does?
So a lot of the world in the construction industry is, I'll say it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some clients have a well-known architect, a very competent designer, and, specifications and really clear and concise drawings and a scope of work. A lot of other clients don't have the budget for that, or they think some of these construction projects are just very simple and they can self-manage them. And that's, that's a tough one.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say somebody wants to remodel their home, remodel the kitchen, the bathroom, and whatever else there is to remodel. Do you ask them, hey, do you have an architect? Do you have plans? And what if they say no? We expect you to do it? I mean, is that how that works or what?
Yeah. I mean, depending on the scale and scope of the project, an architect is highly recommended.
Right.
And necessary. And a lot of times, clients just don't know the entire scope of a work or the materials they'll need to be selecting.
Yeah.
So if an architect is not handling or facilitating that capacity, then they need a designer or someone who's done it, let's just say 5, 10, 100 times.
Right.
And architects, create clarity and define scope, right? Structural engineers, complement the architect's work. And we build off of structural engineering drawings, specifically because that's the real code compliance area of work.
Right.
Whether the cabinet's X or Y or Z doesn't really matter to an inspector.
So you wouldn't necessarily do a job then without some sort of plans in front of you then, or what?
No. Unfortunately, to make it 30 years in this business, you do a lot of customer, advising and counseling and just helping them work through the project. If we're doing a small bathroom, I can, or a kitchen or otherwise, some interior remodel that doesn't require, a lot of engineering or other.
You can pull that off.
Yeah, we do all the time because clients know kind of what they want. They've created their Pinterest or their design book, and they have a lot of visions.
Yeah.
So from developing us in either in-house or through my subs, we'll develop a very simple set of in-house plans that define the scope and scale of the kitchen. And my cabinet maker, who I worked with for, again, 25 plus years, one of them, they can define the scope of a kitchen, right?
Right.
And we'll work through all the nuances of, molding and cabinet styles and door styles and all the features. I guess the more complicated the projects are, the better we shine in some ways, because I just have a high level of attention to detail, and I like to figure it all out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get figured out on a napkin or over one meeting. It takes time.
Right.
And clients entrust us. That's something I hold very, very close to me, is just having trust and communication with my clients.
So once you get, let's just take a kitchen, for example. Once you and your client have the kitchen figured out and all that, then you have to go through a permit process, right?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah. And let's just, we'll just talk San Mateo County. We're not going to talk city specific unless, but let's just say you're going to remodel a kitchen here in Burlingame. You would go down and fill out an application. What do they ask to see? I mean, or do they come out and look at the home and actually visualize what's going to happen? How's that permit process work?
To do a basic kitchen remodel, you need a very basic set of plans that has an electrical wiring diagram, mechanical, plumbing, and a lot of boilerplate that's required. If you start to change windows and you start to move walls and do things, then you really need to hire an architect or an engineer to figure out those loads and the structural work.
Before you get a permit though, or as you're applying for the permit, does the city inspector come out and look at the site?
No, generally,
no,
rarely, never. No, they require enough documentations that they can sit at their desk and see the site plan and see the house.
But nothing happens until you get a permit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And those permits can range. It doesn't matter what city but they can range. They could be a while, right? A few weeks or what?
Depending on the city, the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Some building departments, planning departments are more expeditious than others. But once you have a permit, it's a kind of just a simple chronology of various inspections throughout the process, a final inspection, and then the homeowners get to enjoy their Christmas present, if you will.
Right.
We've done lots and lots of amazing projects and amazing kitchens, many of which have been on the Sol Mattel kitchen.
They sure have, and we'll get to that in a minute, because I was just going to, I know you do a lot of different projects, right? Bathrooms, kitchens, remodels, et cetera. Is kitchens your specialty? Would you say that? Not necessarily.
I mean, you become inherently competent at them.
Yeah.
I'll say a kitchen or some various specific rooms. We've done some $1 million home theaters. We've done some master suites that were primary suites that you would blow your mind, that are larger than a lot of people's homes. And as the projects get more larger and or more complicated, they require more trades and more details. So the kitchen's one of the most complicated rooms in a home, generally speaking, right? But I love doing ground up builds, out of the ground. But in this area, because of property values and the way homes are situated or otherwise, many projects become a large scale remodel. And I think you asked me the other day, what happens when there's like one wall left up? It's still a remodel,
Yeah. Why do they leave one wall up? I mean, there has to be a catch to that or something.
Well, there is. Yeah. There's some encroachment, there's some easement, there's some setback where that corner or part of the home is, I'll say, existing non-conforming, as the cities or as the verbiage says, but that part of the house is you could not put the part of the house in that spot if you tore it down. So we leave that corner, we leave that segment.
How do you know how to do that, though? How do you find out that? Who tells you to do that?
Yeah, well, you do a survey and lay out everything on the lot, and the architect or otherwise assesses those boundaries, height limits, and all the details associated with that specific home on that specific property. So, it's fun. It's like I say, it's a big,
Let me ask you this. We're going to talk kitchens here in a minute, but I'm going to lead into that with this question. Let's say I'm selling my home. Mm-hmm. Is it necessary for me to remodel my 1988 kitchen, or should I just sell the home and leave the kitchen as is and let the new homeowner deal with it? What would you suggest in something like that?
Well, if you're going to sell your home, you call my wife because she now has her real estate license.
That's great.
There's two schools of thought on that. Many real estate professionals or groups will highly advise you to update at a minimum paint and lights and some surfaces,
right.
Improve things. With the passing of both my parents, we've sold some properties, and we chose that the cost to upgrade and improve in this market was not good for us. So we sold properties as is, although we did clean them up and stage them and make them look very nice, and they were very well cared for to begin with. But
well, let me just say this, and I don't like to talk numbers, but I'm going to use this as an example. I mean, a kitchen's going to go, and you're probably going to laugh, but 50 minimum to 100 grand or more, right? Depending. I mean, that's a lot of money to sink into a home, and you have to try to recoup it on the back end, correct? If you're going to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kitchens are expensive.
Kitchens are very expensive.
Yeah.
I always try to, collect people to understand that when you do a kitchen, if you look at, pardon me, 3 or 4 line items. Line item number 1, what are your appliances? Well, some kitchens we do have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of appliances, or more, or well north of that. We install some ranges that are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 one piece of equipment.
Yeah.
In any case, when you have appliances, cabinetry, and all the other trades that are involved in upgrading lighting and electrical and plumbing, the cost ratchets. We do kitchens north of $500,000.
Oh, gosh.
But that's not to say you can't do a kitchen, very nicely in a modest home for, you just have to.
30,000 is not going to happen, right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Not
right.
Not,
is it going to happen for 50? Maybe, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done one in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk kitchens for a minute. What are some of the trends going on right now? What are people looking for in kitchens?
It's interesting. There's been a lot of changes, and then in some ways there's been, they're very similar.
Okay.
I think appliances and the way that people use kitchens now have changed.
Well, let me ask you something. I read someplace that exposed ceiling beams are becoming popular. Do you know anything about that? Have you seen anything about that?
Yeah.
Kind of give it more of an earthy look, I guess, or whatever they're looking for.
Well, yeah. I mean, we do reclaimed lumber, timber beams, either. We do coffered ceilings, which are, beautiful, detailed ceilings. I think what's important to know or talk about with kitchens is kitchens are no longer a single room. Kitchens are now part of a great room. Almost nearly all the projects we're doing on larger homes, we're opening up the spaces, removing walls, and there's a real congruous flow from the family room, great room, lots of different terminology, but the kitchen is this big family communal area where it's not this, I'll say small pocket in one part of the house. They just flow into, and they flow out into the yard with nano doors and, big bifolding doors. And
excuse me, nano door? What's that? My grandmother's door or something?
not nana.
Okay.
No, big folding doors or big, articulating doors that you can essentially have an entire wall that opens up to the backyard and to the outside, to the outdoor kitchen, barbecue, pool, et cetera. So I think, that's very significant in how the rooms are designed. Cabinetry goes from A to Z in a way.
Does everybody put in an island now? Are islands still pretty popular in the kitchens?
In large kitchens, absolutely. They're almost, the
way to go?
Well, they're just almost a given because, not because you're trying to fill space, but because of flow and otherwise. A lot of homes don't have the real estate or the area to fit an island.
Right.
They just don't have that configuration. So, but islands, have also changed over time too with just the features and details. I've done, as you know, many kitchens, and in my own kitchen remodel, one of my friends used to always complain when he'd sit at the kitchen island and we'd all be eating and carrying on that the stone was cold. So I put a heated mat underneath the stone in my kitchen island where everyone sits.
How cool is that?
Yeah, people use heated mats in the bathroom floors and radiant heating here and there. Well,
you fixed that problem, didn't you?
Yeah. So when the side of the island you would maybe be standing on at the sink or otherwise, the work area is cold, but the area where anyone has their forearms and ladies are sitting,
warm.
It's warm. So
that was a question I was going to ask you: is with all the work you're doing, man, all the remodels and et cetera, have you remodeled your home?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Kathleen and I are a blended family. We have 5 kids. Both Kathleen and I were widowed. I was widowed 29 plus years ago.
My goodness.
I was married to a local woman, Patricia Monroe, and she had a hair salon here in Burlingame for many, many years. Her sisters owned Morning Glory, the clothing store.
Paulette's sister?
Yeah.
She had told me about her sister that passed. In fact, I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah, so
you were married to her. Oh, my goodness.
I was married to Patty.
Wow.
Yeah. For a short period.
Yeah.
We were together, about 5 years and married a year and a half, and then she passed with complications of lupus, which we can go into in a little bit. But I'm a big supporter of the Alliance for Lupus Research and solving that problem, let's say. But anyways, Kathleen and I have a blended family. So at one point, as we were blending, when we were dating, we had 5 kids and I think 3 or 4 different schools. And Kathleen has a house in Belmont and I have a house in San Mateo Park at the time. So all 7 of us moved into my 3-bedroom house and we completely remodeled her home to make it a 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath home for the family.
Yeah.
So that house is completely remodeled, top to bottom, front to back.
That project must have taken a while.
It took a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the kids were young and were like I say, running around.
It had to be done though. It had to be done.
Yeah, and we just needed space, so we grit our teeth and stuck together and got that done. And that's just something I'm really proud of.
Right. And what about the home in the park? Are you working on that?
Yeah. So the home in the park recently underwent a small renovation, and just like an upgrade.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful property in a beautiful neighborhood. And having grown up in that area, I love it. The house in the park is directly across the street from the home I grew up in with my parents.
Small world, huh?
Yeah.
That great?
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Again, a lot of hard work to make that happen.
Where did you go to school then? Park School?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and high school was San Mateo or Hillsdale?
Yeah.
San Mateo.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get back in the kitchen for a minute.
You got it.
All right. Countertops.
Yeah.
Marble, granite, Calcutta. What's Calcutta? I heard somebody say Calcutta marble. Have you ever heard of
it's
that?
a natural stone. Stone is a very personal element within the kitchen. Some people are using man-made materials because they're very uniform in color and texture, and less veining. Some people are using very dramatic stones that have specific colors. The classic Carrera marble kitchen, also you see in a baker's kitchen,
Okay.
is tried and true. A lot of people don't love it because it etches and stains and it's not forgiving. But
that would be marble.
that
right?
would be more, yeah.
Versus
But
granite, which is easier to clean, or
granite's
what?
much harder. Quartzite is much harder, less susceptible to staining. And
Does that mean it's going to be more expensive then, or what?
they run the gamut,
Yeah. Okay.
I am, a little bit surprised every now and then as to how much stone costs from one element or, one material to another.
Yeah. Do people still use tile in their kitchens?
Yeah.
I mean, tile was big
yeah.
for many, many
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah. Well,
But you still get calls for that?
Well, I don't think I've ever done a kitchen in any recent time that had tile countertops, but their designers are always integrating beautiful mosaics and beautiful tiles on the backsplash rather than carrying the stone up.
Right. So it would be stone counter, backsplash is your tile.
Yeah.
With mosaic, though, decorative.
Yeah. And depending on who's doing the design work, pardon me.
That's
tickle.
okay. Yeah.
Wallpapers become more relevant, and accent walls and/or wallpapering
Right.
entire rooms, which is just gorgeous.
And does everybody throw down wood floors now? They're pretty popular. I mean, nobody does a carpet anymore, huh?
Well, certainly not in the kitchen, but
Right.
a lot of hardwood floors. I did a beautiful home in Los Altos where essentially we mapped out the entire home and had all the stone floors cut in Italy and shipped and then placed throughout the house. So, again, back to design, back to scope and budget.
Yeah.
But a lot of hardwood in kitchens, because the floors carry through from that family room,
Yeah.
great room, into the kitchen and throughout the living room and hallways, and makes for a very open and contiguous, congruous feel.
Yeah. When you're working with a client, are you working more with the woman than the wife or the woman than you are the man, or does the man dominate, or how does that work? And are they kind of go equal? I mean, in my house, I know who's going to call the shots, right?
Funny and in a positive way. Great question. It runs the gamut. Sometimes husband and wife are highly successful executives, and/or mom runs the house, husband is out traveling, or vice versa. Mr. Mom is not uncommon, but I always joke that sometimes one person is the design person and the other one's the chief financial officer.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't cross those boundaries. It's always interesting how certain elements in any room in a house, either the husband or wife have very strong feelings about certain elements that they want to include or exclude.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the wife and a designer, or the wives are so clear on what they want.
Yeah.
We just work together side by side, day in and day out, and everyone's happy.
So let's say you have 5 jobs going now, right? Mm-hmm. Are you like going around every day checking on each one of those jobs, or just calling the guys to see what's happening? How does your day work like that?
My day is very busy.
Yeah.
I'm again,
probably starts early because guys got to get on the site, right?
yeah. Well, when you run your own business, and I have for a long time, I wear all the hats.
Yeah.
So I wear everything from, do all the accounting, do all the janitorial.
Right.
No, top to bottom.
No, I get what you do. You write the payroll. You got a lot of things going on.
Everything. So I've become
doing the bid work.
Yeah, everything. I've become, extremely skilled in doing all of those and switching, gears throughout the day.
Yeah.
Do I go to every project every day? Depending on the geography. Yes or no. If a project is in drywall or they're sanding hardwood floors, I'm not going there to watch them sand drywall.
Right.
And my guys have been doing it with me for, decades. So
Yeah.
I don't need to stand over them.
You don't need to be the micromanager.
But I'm in constant communication with my clients via phone, email, text,
Yeah.
or otherwise. And just to check in, it's amazing how strong a communication bond and otherwise you can build with clients who become friends over just saying, hey, here's a little update for the day, what happened, what transpired, da-da-da. So they know kind of that, one, you're on it, and two, they can talk about it or be in the know when their husband or wife or otherwise the designer, has questions. And it's just, through that communication and dialogue, you build a bond, you build trust, you build confidence. And, you learn a lot about people outside of, what cabinet knobs they're going to select or otherwise. Yeah. You learn.
You're working very closely with them. You're in their home.
Yeah. And I always, I'm glad you brought that up. I always explain that, to my clients and friends that, it's their home and it's my business.
Yeah.
So I take, their home very seriously. I'm in their personal space. I'm petting their dog. I'm talking with their kids,
right.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And in the meantime, you're trying to conduct business.
And we are successfully.
Yeah.
I have clients that I've done work for decades. And, I've remodeled their homes more than once.
Yeah.
I watched their kids literally go from, either newborns to, college graduates and beyond. Uh-huh. That's how long we've been doing it. And, it's just the most wonderful thing.
Yeah. You're a big contributor to Sol Mateo. Mm-hmm. Okay. How long have you been working with Sol Mateo? Or how long have you been on the signature tour, I guess I should say?
Real good question. I had to think about that a bit. I think I've been involved with the kitchen tour Sol Mateo for 15 plus years.
Yeah.
I've been a title lead signature sponsor for
several years, it seems like.
7 or so.
Yeah.
And they do amazing work. They're just such a, what they do is really, really fantastic.
Well, I've got a little blurb. I'm gonna do a little blurb.
Okay, but yeah, what they do is amazing and necessary and important in our community. But the people involved are wonderful, and I enjoy that part of the the process too. And
it's a great group of volunteers.
And all these things need people.
I'm going to let our listeners know, in case they don't know what Sol Mateo is. It's a nonprofit organization of dedicated volunteers committed to shining light on mental health by raising money and awareness for organizations that provide essential services like suicide prevention hotlines, emergency housing for homelessness, and counseling services. Sol Mateo strives to help our neighbors obtain important resources in time of need. It's a great organization, a great group of ladies. I'll be at one of the homes again this year doing a little podcast, which I did last year and had a lot of fun doing.
Hopefully it's mine.
I hope it is. Have you ever had more than one kitchen
I have.
On tour? Yeah, you have.
Last year was, I think, the first and only year. But yeah, I had 2 homes on the tour last year.
Yeah.
One in Burlingame and one in Hillsborough. So.
Do you hang around at all, or do you come by at all to ask, hear people make comments or questions?
In years past, I never did, and then in conversing with the ladies in Sol Mateo, they thought it would, might be a real nice, nice element. And what I've found. It's a huge element because a lot of the people that are coming through the tour, one, they're just real curious and really want to see some amazing homes, an amazing project. And all of my peers that have done jobs over the years alongside me have, produced, the best of the best.
Yeah.
But there's always questions that the docents are versed in, but they can't, get down 3 layers deep. And for me, it's my dad used to say, it's bread on the water. You cast some bread and things float back. But I just like to, interact with people, answer their questions. Some people may be looking to do their own home,
right?
And it may become a project later, but that's not the primary focus. Obviously, it's a benefit, but that's not why I do it. I do it for all the reasons you just read.
Yeah.
But I just find it some people are just really key into some things that were a real important part of the design. And it's nice to have that acknowledged and have them, key into that and talk about it.
Sure.
And or explain to them how we did it so they can do it in their own house.
I think it's great if the contractor can be there for a while just to talk about his work, because people do have questions.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of looky-loos, but there's people that are serious thinking about doing things and get ideas.
So I my one I'll say promotion or mention. I really would advise anybody listen to this podcast, go to the kitchen tour. It's not expensive. It's a really fun. The homes are amazing, and it benefits such a necessary and important part of our community. Why not? I have 3 sisters, right? One flies in from Hawaii, one comes in from San Diego, and the other one lives locally, and they all get together every year and go to the kitchen tour.
That's great.
And then I have clients and friends that I request and ask, and some I give tickets to, and some I just say, come to the tour, check it out.
43 years.
Yeah,
I think it only got broken up in succession with the COVID thing.
Yeah,
and we all understand that. So
so
of all the work that you've done, remodels and kitchens in this and blah blah blah, do you have a favorite project? Something that you're totally like? If you had to hang your hat on something, I know that's a tough question, but is there anything that really stands out for you as far as a project that you've completed?
Extremely difficult question to answer.
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, you've worked, from Atherton? Any work in Woodside?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've worked from Woodside basically down here to Burlingame and I guess Millbrae or something like that?
Yeah, that's the bookends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thankfully I've been so... well received, and the network of clients that I've built a business with over the years have just endlessly referred us and graciously, suggested, people reach out to us that, we've just been able to stay in a pocket. I can't tell you how many homes I've done in San Mateo Park and Hillsborough on all the streets that we've worked on, and homes will sell and I'll remodel the same home again. But to answer your question, there's just, it would be a conglomeration of a bunch of different homes and different elements. A kitchen in this house was amazing. A home theater in this house was, like nothing I'll probably ever do again. I've done work for titans of industry, maybe you'd call them, or whatever. They're just, ultra successful people. People with, car collections beyond your wildest dreams, and you build them a showcase for their car collection.
Yeah.
And does it have a lot to do with kitchens? No.
when you see a home, you're going to come out and work on the home. Are you over the wow period? Or do you still say to yourself, oh my God, look at this place? Do you ever, do you find yourself saying to that? Or you've worked with so many big homes and luxurious homes.
No, I think that certain homes you go into, you can just be a super impressed or appreciative of the tradespeople that maybe came before you.
Right.
Or if it's maybe I won't necessarily say historic, but there's guys who were, I'll say the 30 years prior to me that built, unbelievable homes. And, here in we're surrounded by amazing real estate. So I wouldn't say I'm over the wow period, but I'm always, and I'm always kind of an open book learning from some of my peers that wow, look what they did, and look how'd they do that? And, and then there's a network of us guys that we're at the lumber yard, and we're not crying the blues, but we're talking to one another about X, Y, and Z. And hey, what would you do here, and how do you get through this? And can you give me a reference for that, or in
a way, it's competition, but it's kind of friendly competition.
Well,
right? Would you call it that?
Yeah, I mean, I've won and lost a lot of projects over 30 years with guys that I consider, I don't know about the word competitor, but probably that's the right word. But, they're doing the same work we're doing.
Yep.
And it's a personality mesh. It's a price, nominal price difference. When you bid against the same guys over and over again, you're not a mile apart because you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and I just, welcome all that networking because it floats boats, so to speak, Sometimes I've had contractors say, hey, Don, I can't do this project. This is an amazing client. They have a good set of plans, so on and so forth, but I am absolutely underwater. When the market was booming, right?
Buried.
Can you take on more work? And I'm like, yes, or no, too.
Yeah.
I don't believe in overpromising and underdelivering.
Yeah.
So,
is there any kind of red flags when folks are looking to have their place remodeled or kitchen redone, or any red flags that you could let our listeners know about to watch out for? Let me put it this way.
No, I can answer your question.
Okay.
But on the side of my truck, it says integrity and reliability. And you have to go in when you meet people. Some people just really, don't know what they're being told or sold or,
Right.
So a lot of times, I just try to educate people in a trusting and positive way. Red flags. There's a lot of guys out there that are really not competent contractors. They may have a license, they may not be licensed, and they're.
May I ask you this? Would it be a union, non-union thing, or does that even play into it?
No, it doesn't play into it in residential or construction very much.
Mostly that's commercial, where that union, non-union thing comes in. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And after doing this for so long, I think it's really important if you're gonna, I'll say, have a short-term marriage or have do a project on somebody's home, as we talked about. You're in their personal space, you're in their home, and it's a business. However, you really need to, communicate well and to have that connection or bond to work as a team.
Yeah.
Some remodels may be a few months and, you're in and you're out, I'll say, but some may be, 2 years. So you really want to, clients are interviewing a contractor to see, okay, are they competent? What's their pricing? And do I like them?
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing the same thing. In a polite, positive way. I want to make sure that they have a nice, a good set of plans. I want to make sure that they have the budget to achieve their own vision and dream.
Can I ask about budget then? Any advice on budgeting or hidden costs? So that, I don't even know what that means, hidden costs. But what about budgets?
Yeah.
When they start to show you all the bells and whistles, you say, well, this might be this much and blah, 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 blah. And they go, oh, my goodness, I didn't know it was going to be that much, right? And you have to start.
It's very common.
It's
It's more common than not. A lot of times, you or I would hire an architect to draw and design an addition, a remodel, something on our home. And we'd sit down and we'd just put all these ideas on paper, right? And we develop a set of plans. Well, then you need to have, the reality check, right? Then you need to bring in a contractor either at that point, or very often I get brought in way early and they have a budget and we're trying to design the project to the budget. But when that's not the case, I get a set of plans. It could be 60 sheets of paper. And then I go through and we develop, a big, spreadsheet estimate. And when you get it all down to the bottom line with profit and overhead and liability and,
right.
And project management and all the materials, not, even labor aside, all the materials, you have a bottom line. It's like, people are sometimes, not shocked, but sometimes people are just...
they go the wow factor. Oh, my God, wow.
Well...
No, it adds up. I get it, man. Yeah.
I think, a lot of times, like if you and I go to the grocery store, which you can appreciate and relate to, I buy a bag of groceries,
right.
and sometimes, depending on what's in the bag...
It's $100 or more.
But if I throw a bottle of X in there,
yep.
or a steak from the butcher,
yep.
That just went to Y.
Yep.
So, a lot of times we do an estimate, a preliminary or a contract estimate based on everything we know, but there's a lot of variables that the homeowners or their designer haven't quite flushed out. So, people ask, well, where are the allowances and what are you going to, how are we going to, define those? I said, you define the materials or the scope and we'll define the price. Okay. So, information is in knowledge is power. It gives you more definition of where you're going.
Do most customers or most clients, after they see what it's going to cost, okay, or fight it, or go, oh my goodness, we got to start cutting? What's the general feel? I mean, you must have some guys that go, they don't even bat an eye, right? Just get the job done. How long will it take?
Yeah. I don't know as a percentage. I couldn't tell you, but many projects we come in on, we provide a sound estimate. We explain where all the costs are. If there's costs that stand out, we look at those as a group and say, okay, how can we reduce cost or scope, or else clients are just like, that's within our budget. We're ready to go. When can you start? And usually the answer is as soon as you have, we have a set of plans that are permit ready.
Yeah.
We're ready to go.
That has to be music to your ears, huh?
Oh,
we're ready to go.
And
man.
it's we've been doing it that way for years
yeah.
and years, where there's not enough money to accomplish the dream, I'll say, and you have to start wringing the towel out or modifying scale and scope. Those are really hard things for everyone, because I can't tell you how to, chop off part of the house that you just designed,
right.
or how to put, I don't know.
My 5 cars into a 4-car garage, right?
Yeah. Right. And or how to, buy lesser appliances.
Yeah.
If you have $60,000 appliances, can you buy 30,000?
Right.
No, it's not going to be the same project. I mean, you can, but every $1,000 leads to 10,000, leads to, so if you can cost cut a little bit, it's all,
Right. Got it. All right. We have a few minutes left. The Trump administration, just placed a 25% tariff on lumber and steel coming in from Canada and elsewhere, I guess. How's that going to affect the Bay Area Los Angeles, Maui, as far as building goes? Will that have a direct effect?
Yeah. So I haven't studied, all the tariffs completely. I know it's on aluminum and steel primarily. I don't know if all construction materials have been captured under that tariff umbrella.
Okay.
I think it will have an effect. It's obvious. I think the construction industry, realtors, the real estate market, everything's been pretty adversely affected by interest rates, and politics always play a role in the ebb and flow of all of this.
Right.
The market's much softer now than it was a few years ago. Because of interest rates alone. Also, California has a huge immigrant labor force. So, that's, a variable of just having skilled workers that can do the trades. There's a lot of unskilled people that I wouldn't hire, ever. And finding good people is one of the hardest parts that I've had throughout my entire construction career.
I believe it.
I am just super demanding.
Yeah.
So
well,
I just won't hire people.
Your demands get effects, right? I mean, like you said, you're super detailed.
Yeah. Well, and I have clients that have a tremendous trust in us, and I will not bring anybody into their home ever that they're not fleshed out.
Right.
No, it's not. I'm not going to expose them or myself. So that's an important thing to me. That's why I've kept the company somewhat moderate in size.
Yeah.
And I've worked harder and smarter in some ways, and had a lot of good luck. Doing what we do and doing that well, and not trying to do it for everyone, and be all over to everyone.
Spread yourself too thin.
Not successful. No.
If you weren't a contractor, what would you be doing today? You mentioned law school.
Yeah, no, I'm not going back to law school at this point.
Yeah.
I have a lot of hobbies.
I forgot to mention that you're a race car driver, man, huh? Spec Miatas, is that what you do up at Sonoma with your boys? You race spec. What's a spec Miata, by the way?
It's a racing class. It's a small Mazda Miata.
Yeah.
And it's in a spec class, meaning you have very, very few modifications you can make to that car. Tires are a spec tire. You cannot do certain engine modifications whatsoever to the car. It has all the safety equipment, racing seat, roll cage, fire system, etc. You can change the shocks on the car, but it's a very, very competitive class.
And you race up at Sonoma?
Sonoma, Thunder Hill, Laguna Seca.
Yeah, Sonoma and Laguna are kind of the same, right? They're kind of...
they're road courses.
Yeah,
They're
courses.
all road courses.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, let's say there's 40 cars in a given race, or 30 cars. I'm probably a mid-pack,
Yeah.
I'm touching on position 10.
Right.
My son Will is a phenomenal race car driver.
How cool. Are there pit stops in these things or what?
No.
No, it's just straight through for how long? How long does the race last?
They're generally 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And, they're very, very intense. 30 minutes of racing.
Yeah.
Especially when you have, like I say, a large pack of cars. They're running bumper to bumper, door to door.
Can you get up to 100 miles at Sonoma or Laguna?
We go through, my son goes through turn 10 faster than I do. He probably goes through maybe 106 miles an hour.
Yeah. I did some hot laps up there one time with somebody. And it was right around 100 miles.
different cars, the
Right.
Porsches and the higher dollar cars
Yeah.
go a lot faster. But interesting enough, when we're running in a mixed group pack, the Corvettes and the Mustangs, the Porsches, they'll run away from us on all the straightaways, and we'll just eat them up in all the turns.
That has to be fun, huh?
And we put together a really, really amazing team of group of guys who have a lot of racing experience. I'm one of the lesser experienced, but we put together a team. We won the entire Teen Mazda Challenge last year.
Congratulations.
We won the Northern California NASA Spec Miata Championships, position P1.
Where do you keep the car? Is there more than one Miata?
We have 2 cars.
And where do you keep them housed? At the house, or do you keep them?
No, I have a shop in San Mateo.
Oh, great.
And so on the nights and weekends when
Who's doing the mechanical work?
you're looking at them.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good for
And
you.
as well as, the other guys,
Yeah.
I just put a new engine and transmission in my car last weekend.
Dude, I don't know when you find the time to do this stuff. I really
Nights
don't.
and weekends.
Nights and weekends.
But, the construction company runs 24/7.
Well, yeah.
I have clients who travel a lot. They are extremely busy. And, if they text me on the weekend with some form of question, it's obviously important to them. It's on their mind. So I respond as promptly as I can, because I think that fosters a communication.
Yep.
Fosters them, it's not that difficult for me to just respond and say, hey, I don't know the answer. I'll find out on Monday.
Right.
Or, blah, 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 here's the path that we're going to take with that problem, or, here's the solution.
The main thing is you're responding.
Yeah. Well, again, like
It's
in any
24/7, like you said.
Well, and when you run your own business, all the guys who are doing what I'm doing, you work for yourself, but it doesn't necessarily turn off. And I can do a accounting and bookwork whenever I want.
Yeah.
No one's telling me,
Right.
but I do it all the time because
Yeah.
it's just constantly chipping away at the rock of marble with a small hammer.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate over the years. I've had financial advisors that have been with me for a very, very long time. My accountant's been with me nearly my entire life.
Great.
And with my father, the firm with my
Sure.
father. So, those type of advisors and mentors, have, allowed me to build a lot of security.
Yeah.
And, I can retire comfortably when I choose to retire, but I don't.
Not yet.
I don't sit still. So,
Yeah, it's not in your DNA right now, man.
my friends ask me, what are you going to do? I'm saying, I'm not going to sit still.
Right, that's for sure.
So-
I couldn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for some shout outs to family, friends, and colleagues, and maybe to some of the other foundations that you do contribute to. You mentioned lupus earlier, so you want to go ahead and go for it?
Yeah. Well, Kathleen and the kids are number one. They've stuck with me.
Yeah.
My buddy Greg has done all the branding for eliaconstruction, all the the logos, all the trucks, all the
Yeah.
we spoke this morning, and we've been doing that together for 16 plus years. All the marketing materials, everything that the website, this, that. So, that's been a fun process. All the guys who work directly with me every day, and all the subs. I mean, it's not possible without those guys.
Right.
And I'm very thankful.
Yeah. I can tell. Yeah. Emotional. That's the Italian in you, pal. That's the love.
Absolutely.
Don, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. I'd like to thank Don Delia, owner of Delia Construction, for being my guest today on a Mark Goes Rogue podcast, the podcast that takes you outside the city limits of Burlingame. Don and I will get together again on Friday, May 16th, 2025, when I will be recording a podcast as a guest for Sol Mateo at one of the kitchens that Don remodeled on the Sol Mateo Signature Kitchen Tour. Thanks to my Minister of Podcasts, Mike Nagler, my Director of Marketing, Adrian Kwok-Lucchese, video by the great Ray Tyler, and original music by Bray. You can hear more of Bray at bray.com. This episode was produced and directed by Shelby Lucchese and was recorded at the Burlingame Public Library on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. The Burlingame Historical Society copyrights this podcast, and no part can be copied and replayed without the written consent of the Burlingame Historical Society. And before I close out, be sure to look for my next episode of A Burlingame It's a Small Town podcast with my guest, Rachel Groffman, one of Burlingame's most popular hairdressers. So until next time, everyone, see you around Burlingame. It's a small town.